believe it or not, a lot of Muslim scholars, in fact, the majority say that when Isa and the Mahdi are going to come, they're going to force people to accept Islam. Accept Islam or face the sword. You're going to die if you don't accept Islam. It's crazy. If you don't believe me, listen to these guys.
الذين يوجدون في ذلك الزمان من أهل الكتاب إما أن يقتل وإما أن يؤمن بعيسى. The jizya money will not be taken anymore from the Christians or from the Jews. They have no other alternative but to accept Islam.
So there we are. It's not us saying it. These scholars are clearly saying Islam or the sword, i.e. Islam or death. Now, where do they get this notion from? It's not in the Quran. It's not in the Quran at all. They take some narrations in Ahadith where it says, the Messiah and the Mahdi, they will come in the latter days and they will wage a war.
Yeah.
And they take that to be literal. But any interpretation that you do of a hadith, you have to make sure it's a universal rule that it goes in line with the Quran. The Quran cannot be abrogated. So when it comes to this war, of course we have to interpret it to mean something else, i.e. a war of argumentation, a war of the pen. And it's not very hard to understand. We see so many ideologies right now, they're on the rise. The Quran itself says, وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. Over there, the word jihad is used, and do jihad with them. But in that verse, the interpretation which everyone accepts is that it is a jihad of the Quran, not a jihad of the sword.
Yeah, exactly. Just explaining, arguing Islam, defending Islam through argumentation, not by the sword.
Yeah, you can't just put the Quran to one side and take a hadith and say that, okay, now I believe that the Mahdi and the Messiah will come back and they will kill everyone and there'll be a bloody battle in the end of times because it goes against the Quran. Straight away, la ikrah fi din, there is no compulsion in religion whatsoever.
And if the Quran is saying this to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is being revealed to Rasulullah, how can any Muslim accept that the Mahdi is going to come or Isa is going to come and they're going to be able to compel people into Islam, but Rasulullah couldn't? It doesn't make any sense at all. Another ayat of the Quran, and this is so clear-cut, أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being addressed by Allah. أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ. Will you compel people حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ, until they become Muslims, until they become believers? Right? So Allah is saying how you cannot compel people. And would you do, Rasulullah, of course, we know he never compelled. So how is Isa or the Mahdi coming and they're compelling people into Islam? It's against the Quran. And they would have to admit, and by the way, they do admit this, that these verses would be abrogated.
There's no other way about it.
They would be abrogated. When Isa comes, they will say, these verses will not apply anymore.
Yeah. Right? If those two aren't enough for you, we've got a whole list over here. So وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. And he who wants, they can believe. And who doesn't want, they can disbelieve. So compelling someone, forcing someone to become a Muslim, are you really following this verse by giving them that room or giving them that opportunity to disbelieve if they want to?
Yeah,
of course you're not. You're going against this verse, clearly. You're going against so many other verses and you're forcing someone to accept Islam.
Now another verse, Rasulullah again is being addressed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ. Allah is saying, admonish people, warn them, tell them, preach with your tongue. And you're just someone who's going to admonish people and warn people. Lasta alayhim bimusaytir. You aren't someone who's going to compel them to believe. You're not a controller over them. You're not a dictator over them.
Yeah, all of these have been done by, it's not our translation. Yeah. You can find this
There's
online.
all the translations available. We'll put it in the lower thirds, right? And so that this is clear. If Rasulullah is being told this by Allah that you are just someone who's going to admonish people, then how on earth is Isa going to come and go do something which Rasulullah couldn't do and go against the Quran?
Yeah, here let me just ask you, if there was a world leader and if he was to everyone in his country, if he was to force them to believe a certain thing, what would he be? A dictator.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. The Holy Prophet ﷺ was told by God that he is not a dictator. If Jesus or the Mahdi come back and they do this, of course they'll be dictators. Again, going against this verse.
This is why the tafsir and the understanding of Islam, which Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam taught, which is the original teachings of Islam, is so crucial. Because you're, as a Sunni Muslim, you are literally believing, most Sunni Muslims out there, and Sunni is a big branch, of course Ahmadis are Sunnis as well, but they literally accepting that Isa is going to come and he's going to say, Imal Islam, accept Islam, Imma safe, or face the sword.
Yeah.
Right? You're believing this. So you have to challenge your scholars, all the youth who are listening to this. You've got to be challenging your scholars on how on earth are you believing this?
Yeah, and here, to be honest, I wouldn't even say that everyone is to blame for this. I mean, of course, the scholars are giving them this meaning. A lot of Muslims, they haven't even thought this out for themselves.
Yeah,
They're just
that's
accepting this. They don't know where it's written, whether it's in the Quran or the Hadith.
Yeah.
And we actually did this. We went out in the streets. We asked the youth, Muslim youth. So the Quran says this, that there is no compulsion. We showed them all these verses, right? And on the other hand, we told them that your scholars are saying this. So who do you pick? Who do you choose?
Exactly.
And their answers, you can look for yourself. We've recorded this video. We'll put it up in the screen. You can go and watch this.
And they said that, yeah, the Quran makes perfect sense, and they were going against the scholars in the video,
Yeah,
right?
because what you're doing essentially by believing this is that you're sort of leaving the Quran as something on the side. The Quran says it itself, that matruka, it has been made something which is sort of just left on the side.
Yeah.
But if you want to follow the Quran properly, then you have to really think about it, what you're believing in.
Now, some people will say, no, this is the time where the Mahdi and Isa are coming, is the day of judgment, it's the end time, so like they are giving their verdict now. However, number one, the world hasn't ended when Isa's here. Okay, and the Mahdi are here. So how are you talking that it's Judgment Day? Judgment Day hasn't happened yet. And number two, that these verses of the Quran still exist. So they still be going against the verse of the Quran, La ikraha fid deen, right? There's no compulsion in religion. Or man sha'a falyu'min wa man sha'a falyakfur. Whoever wants to believe, they can believe. Whoever wants to disbelieve, they're still going to have to go against this and abrogate these verses. And the scholars say, these verses will be abrogated.
This is a quagmire that they've landed themselves in, and they can't get out of this. And we want all of our viewers that are watching this. We're sitting here telling you, but don't take our word for it. Literally, even take this video. Take this evidence that we've given you. See what they say. Ask them yourself.
Exactly. And comment below. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.